Welcome to the Best Sports Betting Podcast, where we'll talk about reviews, previews, tips, and all things betting related. Brought to you by bestsportsbetting.co.za. Now, on to our hosts.
Back to the Best Sports Betting Podcast, episode 46. Simon is back. He's come back from his little Easter break, hopefully with some winners. Simon, how was your break?
Yeah, it was really good, Rob. I spent some time in Tennessee. And in Chattanooga, another town called Asheville. It was really, really good to get away and have a bit of a break.
All right, great. And did you manage to catch any of the sport in the last week?
Well, the only thing I actually only caught this weekend was the end of the Masters, which was quite intriguing. So yeah, obviously Patrick Reed was our winner there, and I think all of us might be a little surprised by that. I think he'd found some consistency in his game in the run-up to Augusta, but it's been a good while since he's played at this level. I don't think since the Ryder Cup 2 years ago, he's kind of looked so determined to win.
I know, and look, I'm not going to say I would have taken him because I didn't quite really fancy him for the Masters. I thought one of your more established names was going to win. And look, people have said he's overdue a Masters, which is fair enough, but I mean, who isn't overdue a Masters? Which is...
Sure. I think, with that final round from Jordan Spieth, though, he shot 8 under par. And I just thought, oh, here we go. We're going to have a playoff. It would have been hell of exciting. But then he bogeyed the final hole, which threw him out of contention there. Yeah,
and talking about like Superbrew, I had Reed in Superbrew for quite a few days, actually. I had him on 4 days, or 3 days, rather. And I didn't win the Superbrew. Pool that I was in, so I'm a bit bummed about that. But I don't really like I don't know if you've played it before, the Superbrew golf. It's.
I haven't. I've only ever played the rugby.
It's not great. I'm not gonna lie. It's overly complicated, but it's too simple at the same time. If that makes sense.
Okay,
yeah.
But I was happy to have. I did post it on Twitter there. I loved the bet, Justin Rose to beat Tiger Woods over 72 holes, which I just was incredible value, which he absolutely smashed Woods. And I'd also have the Waratahs on the handicap against the Sunwolves, which was my other bet in Super Rugby. So it was a good weekend, regardless, not watching any sport.
Yeah.
Besides a bit of the Masters.
I didn't watch too much either. I watched some Premier League, not a great deal. I watched a bit of that. I watched some of the golf, not too much there again. And I watched a little bit of Super Rugby. So I watched a lot of a little this weekend, if that makes sense. I didn't really stick to one sort of, how can I say, genre or discipline of sport. So let's jump into some of the Super Rugby results from the weekend. Not too many upsets here. I think the Stormers are the biggest talking point, getting absolutely pummeled by the Lions. Are the Lions back? Not sure. Yeah, I think it's another false dawn for them. I don't want to jinx them, but I'm quite excited to have a look at some of the Lions this week if they're playing and seeing if there's value going against them.
Yeah, I think the Stormers, the Stormers' away record just continues to stand in massive contrast to their performances at Newlands. So I think it's quite easy to read into any thrashing they get away from home, but they really are one of the poorest sides playing away. So the one result which certainly surprised me was the Sharks, only losing by a point to the Hurricanes. And obviously having thumped the Blues in Auckland last week, they seem to have turned the corner somewhat. Obviously having run the Hurricanes again close this weekend. So, yeah, I'm interested to see how they can keep up that level of performance.
Yeah, and then in the Premier League, I think the biggest upset was, actually a really big upset was City losing at home to United. Now, in City's defence, I liked City for the win there. They were a cracking price, but they did have an eye on the Champions League return leg against Liverpool, which they got solidly beaten in. So the win there for United was not that much of a surprise to me. I don't want to say I would have put a lot of money on City to win there, but I didn't think the other factors were playing that much, and they ended up playing in quite a lot. So I think it was the 14th game, or the first time in 14 home games that City have lost in the Premier League.
No, sure. And also, nice to see United finally involved in a golf fest because they've been lacking this season.
I don't think do something as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think anyone expected United to come back from 2-0 down there, especially against the
No,
the
I
soon to
thought
be
it was
crowned
done
champ.
and dusted. I honestly thought it was done. So
But I missed the game, but I did hear it was marred by some very dodgy reffing decisions, which went the way of United. But to be fair, Mourinho has been on the wrong end of these plenty times. So I think perhaps he deserves one or two to go his way for a change.
yeah, definitely. I mean, referee decisions is part of the game. It's look,
Yeah.
I think the result was fair. I don't think. I mean, I'm not complaining about it, and I was on City, so. Yeah, not too much else going on. Newcastle picking up a good win against Leicester away from home, which was also a bit of an upset. If you
Sure.
want
I
to
mean,
look at
that's
some
one
of the
step.
lower echelons of English football.
Well, yeah, another step towards Premier League safety, which is
I think
obviously
it's
very
pretty
important.
much safe now. I think it's
Yeah.
it's pretty safe to say. I don't want to say it's guaranteed because what's the magic number? Like 37 or 38 points?
It's normally about 40, but it just depends on the season.
Yeah, well, I think
Uh,
statistically the number is around 38. But 40 is
mhm.
like the kind of public perception of the
Yeah.
ideal number.
But just looking at the results again, I was quite surprised to see a 0-0 draw between Liverpool and Everton. I don't know if you caught any of that one, Rob, but I mean, in terms of scale of entertainment compared to the Manchester
Oh, it was
derby, that's
terrible.
a bit
It was
higher.
terrible. I had a double. I had City double chance, or was it drawn a bet onto Liverpool drawn a bet. So I mean that lost, but that was just it was a boring match. I don't know what Liverpool were doing, and I did post on the football betting tips on BSB that Liverpool have a pretty bad record away to Everton, and the last couple of games have actually been draws. And I did end up saying, put a little bit on the draw. I think it was 5-2. So that came in. I'm just pulling up the stats now, but it's pretty shocking actually. That here we go. Okay, I've got them now. So 5 of the last six matches that Everton have hosted Liverpool have been draws. So only one match has been a win, and that was an away win for Liverpool back in 2016. So
No, sure. I mean, obviously with, Everton have kind of fallen from grace the last, good few seasons now. So it makes it even more surprising result. But as you mentioned earlier, I mean, both with City and Liverpool, most certainly looking ahead to Tuesday and Wednesday's fixtures in the Champions League. So, not necessarily teams you always want to fade, but at the same time, you gotta take that into account. So I think they definitely had their eye on those games upcoming, which we can talk about in a minute.
Yeah, we'll be jumping into that, and then the Champions League. That was quite a big upset there. With that was last week with Man City getting thrashed 3-0 by Liverpool. So we've got so much to talk about this week. So where should we start? Should we start with, I think, Super Rugby? That's probably the safest place to start. There's not too much of interest going on this weekend. We've got a good match on Friday. We've got the Canes against the Chiefs, and I think that's probably the pick of the weekend, unless you like maybe Sharks against the Bulls, but the rest of the games are pretty much also ran. So I don't really have too much for Super Rugby. Is there anything cooking on your side?
Yeah, there's some good matchups, but not much that interests me from a betting perspective. But there was one price which stood out to me quite a bit, and that is the Bulls away to the Sharks, which you just mentioned there at 15-10. Now, obviously, the Bulls are traditionally not the best travellers. Look, they obviously had a good win against the Stormers last week. Again, Stormers not the best travellers either, but they've had an extra week to prepare for this match. And obviously, they did have that win over the Stormers last week. So, despite the Sharks looking much better the last couple of weeks, I think a 5-point handicap is too much against a Bulls side on extra rest, even if they are playing at home in Durban. So I must say, I quite like the Bulls +5 there. I expected that to be closer to 2-3 points, even pick 'em possibly, considering the fact, because I think extra rest in Super Rugby really, really is important. And I mean, you can see the way it's been built into some of the other lines, and I think that it's slightly gone under the radar here. So I like the Bulls +5.
You've got extra rest, and then you've got the Sharks travel factor. The Sharks
Absolutely.
are traveling back from Australasia. So
yeah.
it's quite a weird line. I don't know really what to think about this. It's a little too low for me to get too overly excited about.
Yeah.
And if it was 6 or 6.5, then I would be very excited. So maybe if you can take a 6.5 and lose a little bit value.
Yeah, this is
might
also,
do that.
this is kind of like one of those matches, I think, with the last week as well, where, you can take the 5, and I think obviously it's always the safest bet, but sometimes in this case, it's better to just take a half stack and just take the win straight up. Just risk a little less at high odds.
Maybe take a bit of 1 to 12. Bulls 1 to 12. I don't see that being a bad bet at all.
But I definitely think that there's some value there. I think 5 points, with a team with extra rest is a little too much, despite the fact that, the Sharks obviously had a narrow loss against the Hurricanes. But I think that 5 points is too big.
Okay. And another match that's quite interesting is the Sunwolves against the Blues. You're getting a handicap of about 18, 19 points there. I think that's a little too low. It's not that I'm going to be taking the Blues on the minus there, but I would have liked to have seen something in the very low 20s for me to get excited about some Sunwolves plus. But I'm not going to be going there. And then we've got the Rebels against the Jaguars, with Jaguares, and that's also quite a big handicap of 11.5. And I quite fancy the Rebels on that 11.5 handicap. The Jags have been pretty poor away from home. They got smashed by the Lions, a very bad Lions side. They got beaten by the Stormers at Newlands by 8 points, a pretty bad Newlands side. The Rebels last season struggled against them somewhat, but I think it's a Rebel side that is playing pretty well at home. I think by the Hurricanes, but
for sure. Well, they got thrashed by the Hurricanes in the second half. They were only trailing by 5 points in that first half, and I think it's quite easy to just all of a sudden forget the start that the Rebels had. They've had some tough fixtures recently, and I still think they are a quality side, certainly one of the best in Australia. So I do think at 11.5 is quite big, I must say.
So that's basically my only fancy for the upcoming Super Rugby. Then before that, on Friday, we've got Canes versus Chiefs, which is probably the biggest match. Chiefs very much dogs in this game, which I find pretty surprising. I mean, 10.5 points, that's a little bit too big for me. I fancy the Chiefs plus 10.5 there. I can't take the Crusaders the Hurricanes minus 10.5 against the Chiefs. It's just, that cap is way too big. All right, so should we move on to some Premier League, Simon?
Yeah, sure, let's do that.
All right, so anything you fancy this weekend? We've got Spurs City, pretty big game. Other than that, there's not too much else to chat about. A lot of smaller scraps for places. Newcastle Arsenal could be quite an interesting game. But yeah, so what are your fancies?
We'll talk about the marquee matchup, obviously being Spurs and City in a minute. But my best bet out of the Premier League is over 2.5 goals when Newcastle hosts Arsenal, and that's at odds of 8 to 10. I mean, the two are in decent nick at the moment, especially at home, and they're undefeated in the last 7 matches on Tyneside. But rather than siding with them on the match odds, as I said, I like goals in the match. Look, it's obviously somewhat of a concern that Newcastle have kept a clean sheet in their last 3 matches at home, but to be honest, I think that comes down to variance. I don't think they're a strong defensive unit.
No,
I really don't.
Not at all.
And I don't think they're going to keep Arsenal at bay. So even the Gunners have also conceded 7 goals in the last 2 matches, and that was against Southampton and CSK Moscow. So that's pretty leaky defense. So I really think Newcastle should get on the score sheet here, and I see a 2-1 win for Arsenal, possibly even a 2-all. But I like the goals more than siding with Newcastle here, because I think the match odds look about right. So I like over 2.5 goals when Newcastle hosts Arsenal at odds of 8 to 10.
Okay, I like goal bands in that match. So I like Arsenal to win by 1 or 2 goals. I'm not sure where you can still get those bets, but I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Like Arsenal to win by 1 to 2 goals. So you should get pretty decent value on that. I mean, Arsenal are, I think, just over 11 to 10 to win. So if you can get that, then jump on. I also quite like total goals, 2 to 3 goals at even money. If you can get Arsenal to score first or something like that. I mean, I do fancy Arsenal here, not heavily, but I'm trying to get a little bit more value on Arsenal here. Stretch.
No, I see where you're coming from there.
So it's not quite Arsenal minus 1. I guess it would be Arsenal minus a half Asian handicap. If you can get that.
Sure.
But I don't see them winning by more than, say, 2 goals here. I think they'll win by exactly 2 or 1 or 2 goals. And I'm not going to be taking Arsenal minus 1 on the European draw handicap or something like that, because
look, it's also, I mean, it's a bit of a pity that both teams to score is a short price there, because I think that's probably the more likely. But I just think that over 2.5 should come in, and I think you're right. You're going to see a 2-1, a 3-1, or something like that sort of result, and Arsenal should get the job done.
Okay, and then on to the big game, the Spurs against City game. What are your thoughts right there?
Well, I think the match odds look about right to me. But I must say, I would have to side with Spurs here for two reasons. Firstly, as we discussed earlier, City are playing a must-win midweek Champions League match against Liverpool. And I'm not quite sure this has been factored into the odds quite enough. Secondly, City have basically won the Premier League. And their motivation in every league game from here on forward must be questioned. So I think a stab at Spurs draw no bet at 17-20 is definitely the way to go.
It's a good price, yeah.
Yeah. They've got a fantastic home record. They're also, there's just, to me, City, as I said, they've won the title, and they're going to believe that they can win this game against Liverpool. You must remember that. Even though they've got a 3-0 deficit, they're going to believe they can still do this, and they're going to really, really throw all their eggs in one basket. So I just don't think they're going to have any motivation or any they're going to have their eyes on the prize there in terms of the Champions League, I think.
Yeah, and also just looking at Spurs' league position, they're battling with Liverpool for that third spot, which means they don't have to qualify for the Champions League, as in go through playoffs. So they're both on 67 points at the moment, but Spurs have that game in hand, which could, a win would see them move up to 70, or a draw would see them, move up to 68, both of which would leapfrog Liverpool. So I do like that draw on a bet, and that's where I was going to be going with my selection. I don't see City winning this, but I could quite easily see a draw. So draw on a bet's definitely the best way to go. If you fancy City, take the draw no bet as well. I wouldn't recommend someone take City straight up on the win, especially at the odds on offer, which is 18-10 or something like that on City. So I think it's just not worth it.
Yeah, I think the under as well is definitely a look there, but it's set quite low. But I think siding with Spurs is definitely the right way to go.
Right, and then we've got some of the more entertaining football, better than the Premier League. We've got some Champions League this week, and Man City have a massive deficit to overturn against Liverpool. 3 goals. Going to happen? Yeah. Yes or no?
It's probably not going to happen, but I certainly think, as I said a moment ago, I think they'll believe they still have a chance, and that's going to make for an interesting game. I honestly think that, although they've tidied up a bit at the back, Liverpool, I still think that, they're a leaky defense, and City can score on anyone. So I think that they will believe they have a chance. In terms of betting this match, for me, if I had to go anywhere, it would be City, simply because they have to win the match, and I'd probably take them there on the -1 Asian handicap. But I've got a bet in one of the other matches, which I much prefer.
Well, here's a nice one for you. How about under 3.5 goals at 17-20? What do you think about that?
I would be very backing the under there. I just think, you can be sure that Liverpool are going to try and set up shop, but whether they're going to or not is another question. So I don't know. My only bet there would be to side with City, but I think it's priced about right, and I think there's better value elsewhere.
Okay, well, you see, for me, I never see that price on under 3.5 goals. It's almost unheard of. And they're pricing this up at, a massive chunk more, because City need 4 goals. Maybe 3 goals and penalties, or,
Sure.
So I'm going to be taking under 3.5 goals. I see City running out like 2-0, 2-1 winners over here. If Liverpool strike early, it's game over. They need 5 goals.
Absolutely, and if you think about the fact that Liverpool are probably not, in all honesty, not really going to be too concerned about scoring at all, you're right. They will basically almost need 3 or 4 goals themselves to cover that over's got line. So it's certainly I would not be backing the over there for sure, especially that at those odds, but at that quote. But that'll be an interesting one to see.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be quite an exciting one. Unfortunately, that one's tomorrow night, so we don't have to wait too long for that. The other one is Roma against Barcelona. Not too much to talk about there. Barcelona predictably smashing them in the first leg. There's no way they're going to turn over a 3-goal deficit there. The odds reflect that. Getting 13 to 20 best price on Barcelona is no value there. Roma might come out and win that one, but Then moving on to Real Madrid Juventus. Did you manage to catch Ronaldo's absolutely fantastic overhead kick last week?
No, I didn't. I was still aware, but I did hear about it. Yeah.
Do yourself a favor, go on YouTube. Wow. That's all I can say is wow. I didn't see them beating them 3-0. I didn't see him scoring a cracker of a goal like that. Absolutely fantastic. This one's also pretty much a dead rubber. I don't see Real Madrid being able to come back here. So not too much. Juventus being able to come back here. Then on the other side, we have Bayern against Sevilla. Also not too much to talk about there. Bayern going into this game with a 2-1 lead over Sevilla. They're probably going to thump them pretty hard, I think. Sevilla have been surprising this season, but they're 12-1 to win this game, and Bayern are 1-5. There's not even any value taking a handicap on them. I mean, it's -1,
not.
which is 5-10. So maybe a bit of value on taking Sevilla on the plus, but I wouldn't go against Bayern playing at home. It's just you're asking for trouble.
No, it's certainly not. But there's my best bet in the Champions League actually comes from that Real Madrid Juventus clash. Okay. And Real Madrid have all but secured a place in the semi-finals now after winning that first leg 3-0, as you said, in Turin. But I think the Italians can keep it close in Spain for the second leg. Madrid will be more than happy to sit back and not concede. And the way this line is set, you can get Juventus +1 on the Asian handicap at evens, which I think's a really, really good value. I think that Madrid obviously, they might go and put this game away in the first 10 minutes and just, and that wouldn't be ideal. But the fact that they can lose by a goal and you still get a full stake return, I think is cracking value. I mean, if you look at these two teams, regardless of what's happened, they're still pretty evenly matched, right, in terms of skills and experience. So I think that getting a goal with Juventus on the Asian handicap and just with them either drawing or not losing by a goal for stake back is really good values here. So I like Juventus +1 on the Asian handicap, even though they are playing in Spain against Real Madrid. Okay,
well thanks. I'm going to be taking my best bet on the Spurs Liverpool game, and I'm going to be going with on 3.5 goals there. Before we move on to another section, I'm just going to have a quick chat about what was Betting World. I'm pretty sure it was Betting World that was sending those emails. Let me just have a quick look at my email. So basically what happened is some guy had sent in a query to Betting World. It was Betting World. And he was asking, where's my money? Please, and then they replied, but their support replied to everyone on the mailing list. So literally everyone was privy to this conversation between this dude and Betting World support. And predictably, people then started replying saying, oh, why am I getting these emails? I shouldn't be CC'd in here, blah, 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 blah. And there must have been about 10 emails, and I'm just looking at the thread now, and it's pretty long. And it's pretty shocking coming from Betting World. I mean, at the first sign of that, you should just shut it off and send out a mass email saying, sorry, we've had an error on our system.
Yeah.
Please ignore the emails, please don't reply to them. But to continue replying to these mails just makes him look really, really bad, I mean, I've got some lovely emails of some guys, and I'm sure I could, take those emails to some marketing firm and say, hey, listen here, this boy's he's a punter at Betting World. He's the director of X and Y. Would you like his email address to get in touch with him? So they've massive data leak there from them. If I was their punters, I would not be happy at the moment at all.
No, that's very unprofessional.
Definitely. And the thing is, they didn't do anything to curb it, or they didn't apologize about it afterwards, which is a bit shocking. It's 21st century. You really should be able to send out an SMS to your customers saying, we've had a problem with our emails. Please contact us on telephone or on chat or whatever other methods they have available. But yeah, so Simon, anything else coming up this week that you're looking forward to?
No, it's pretty action-packed, Rob. But that's all we need to cover, I think.
All right, best bets. What you gonna be taking?
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the Champions League. I really like that Juventus +1 on the Asian handicap against Real Madrid. I mean, obviously the Spanish have the firepower to put this one completely to bed early on, but I think they're going to feel they already have done that. And Juventus I think they can certainly hold on for a draw. And look, again, arguably they might feel that they don't have a chance either, but I just think without Real Madrid needing to go all out, playing against a very evenly matched team, on the Asian handicap plus 1 goal, losing by a single goal, we still get our full stake back there. So I think, Juventus plus 1 goal on the Asian handicap is great value in that match.
Okay, well, I quite like the unders in the Manchester City hosting Liverpool. I like the under 3.5 there. I think it's a good price. And then my other best bet's going to be going back to Super Rugby, and I'm going to be taking the plus. I'm taking your plus on the Bulls. I quite like that. Or I'll be taking Bulls 1 to 12.
Yeah.
But my best bet's going to be the Rebels on the minus against the Jaguares. I do fancy that. I fancy them to get a bit of a thrashing there. Look, it's not one of my more confident ones, but I'm going to still have it as one of my best bets. Alright guys, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. We've posted up quite a lot of content on YouTube and on the site, so go check it out. I try to spin up a couple $100 into $1,000 on Betway. And talking about Betway before we go off, I had a problem with Betway, Simon. My account has been open since last year, and they've requested FICA docs from me now, and I've already FICA'd my account, so I wasn't able to take any bets at Betway over the weekend because they asked for my FICA documents, which I submitted on Friday.
Even if you're not requesting withdrawal?
No. I wanted to request a withdrawal, but I wasn't able to because they said there's outstanding FICA documents. But there are no outstanding FICA documents. And to Betway's credit, they did phone me immediately, and they're like, listen, sir, something's fucked up over here. Not his words, but something's messed up over here, and this is a problem. I'm really sorry about this. We'll get this sorted for you. And look, it did take them 2 days to sort it out, but they did phone me and say, we found the problem, we fixed the problem, we're not sure what caused it. And they did a bit of an investigation, so they asked me a few questions, which to their credit is pretty good customer service. Usually they fix it and then it's done, and then they just expect you to know. So, they created the problem, but in the end of the day, they did fix the problem. And I think that probably saved me some money because the bets I would have taken would have lost anyway. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so credit to them for sorting that out.
One thing before we say goodbye, just talking about the Miami Masters. Obviously I missed the podcast last week, and Yelena Ostapenko obviously made it to the final there. We got some nice 12-1. Our listeners should have a read of that World Cup 2018 outright betting article I wrote, because I tell you there how to hedge these outright bets, so you can obviously still guarantee some profit if a player you bet on reaches the final and then loses the final match. So yeah, go have a read of that, and you can see how to lock in some money even if you're not confident of the bet making it all the way.
Yeah, you can always trade it off, and what I prefer to do is to take a more favored player. So I will take someone who's if they're in the final, if they make the final, they'll be the favorite, and then I'll lay that off. It's a bit harder to lay off with a 12-1 shot. Was she favorite going into the final? Who did she play in the final?
She wasn't. She played Sloane Stephens. She wasn't favored, but obviously we still got some massive value on that because it went off at 12-1. But she wasn't favored. But yeah, I still traded off for a nice profit there. So yeah, just a little heads up to listeners who take outright bets. Just remember you can always lock something in as long as you got a decent enough price in the first place.
Yes, and Sporting Bet also have a very nice cash out feature, which is the same thing as laying or trading off your bet. I think they take a bit more juice, but if they have it, use it. The maths is done. You don't have to worry about anything. I mean, even if a player, that's the problem with tennis. If someone gets injured and you've laid off your bet, what happens then? And you wrote an article about betting rules and why it's important to know that. And there's another reason why you should. There's nothing worse than laying off a bet and then being guaranteed to have profit, only to have basically both of them lose
Exactly, for sure.
Because of a retirement or something like that. So guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week, hopefully with a few more winners. And don't forget to give us a like on Facebook and follow us on Twitter, guys. We'll see you next time. Simon, cheers.
Cheers, Rob.
Thank you for listening. And don't forget to visit our site, Facebook and Twitter pages. Let's go make some money.